Today we have kind of a strange continuation of the story that we heard yesterday, if you were here or someplace else, or you just read the scriptures at home for your own prayer time or whatever. So yesterday we had the story of the road to Emmaus, right? And how these two disciples spent all this time talking to Jesus, walking with him, out to this town, and don't recognize him. Right? There's something about him that their eyes have not been opened to see who he was. Well, they go back to Jerusalem, and there he is again. Right? But a little detail is revealed here, and that is, how do these disciples come to realize that it's Jesus? Right? Yesterday, it was in the breaking of the bread. Right? He had talked to them all along the way, and they go to this place, and they're sitting there, and Jesus breaks the bread, and it clicks for them. Right? It clicks for them. They realize who he is. And with that, he disappears. Right? And then they run back to Jerusalem. How does Jesus show himself today? In his hands and his feet. Right? That this glorified body, this is kind of an interesting development, right? This glorified body that is not recognizable to those other two guys, right? He had been changed by the experience, if you will. This is important, right? He had been changed by his experience. He has this glorified body, but he still bears the wounds. Right? He still has the wound marks in his hands and his feet. Right? You would think that if you were going to get a glorified body, things like that would have been fixed. Right? But no, it's not. And in fact, they are his glory. Right? Jesus' wounds are his glory. Right? If anything proclaims who he is, it's those wounds, right? And hence, the glorified body of Jesus carries those wounds, and they continue on. Many of you probably have an image of the Sacred Heart in your home, right? We'll be coming to celebrate that after the end of the Easter season. Right? One of the prominent features of the image of the Sacred Heart, right, is that Jesus is still wounded, right? And this is not meant to be a picture of Jesus as he was, but rather as he is now in this moment. Jesus is still wounded. Why? Because we still need the gifts of salvation. Because we were born after the events that we celebrated last week. The world continues to need forgiveness. The world continues to need mercy. The world continues to need compassion. And there's no more beautiful symbol of that than the wounds of Christ. Because in those wounds, we are healed, as the scriptures say, that he interprets for the disciples today. That's a powerful gift to us, because we can often fall into the trap in thinking, well, these are just things that happened 2,000 years ago, right? And isn't that good, right? But the reality is we need that grace more now than ever. In fact, we do, because we weren't around then. Right? We need the blessings. We need God's mercy and compassion, which continues to flow towards us from the Lord. Right? In a few days, we'll be celebrating Divine Mercy Sunday, right? That kind of very focused celebration when God's incredible compassion for us. Hopefully, we bring that into the world in which we live. Right? Hopefully, our own healed wounds, right, are witnesses to the world in which we live, right, of God's glory. Not our own, but of God's glory. So the world can continue to see God's presence through us.